He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall, and I guess you just rhyme with Bat Minute! Hello, and welcome once again to Bat Minute Forever, the podcast where we look at every holy rusted minute of Batman Forever, 1 minute at a time. I am one of the hosts, Niall McGowan.
And here to dive deep and uncover the fathom-held depths of Joel Schumacher's masterpiece of a movie, it is I, John Parker.
And we have joining us once again from Monday, a guest who's been waiting, 2 or 3 years to finally talk about this minute in particular. We have all the way from YouTube and Mindless Entertainment, it is Jessi Milestone.
Woo! I am back again.
But today we're here to talk about minute 104 of Batman Forever. And this is a minute that begins with yet another idea that Chris Nolan would end up stealing for his Batman movies. And ends a minute later with the best, worst line of the whole franchise, maybe?
No, you can just stop with best. You can just stop with best. It's just the best.
Yeah. But that's the thing, though. So we have here... of course, the Batwing has now landed in the water and is turned into a bat submarine, which is that kind of thing always makes me think of Horse Boat from The Office, like Dwight's idea of like it's a horse that's standing in a boat so you can go from land to water without having to change at all.
Well, I looked into it. I did a bit of research to see if flying submarines were a thing. They're a thing.
Really? Holy crap, I wouldn't have assumed that.
They very rarely actually work, right? But the Soviet Union started building a naval fleet like in the mid-20th century, going really into it, battleships, aircraft carriers, things like that. And it was successful. So the leadership were like, let's get a little bit experimental. Let's try some new things. So they came up with a flying submarine in World War II. But they never got out of the design phase at the time. But then a naval engineering officer, what's his name here? Boris Ushakov. Now, he helped sort of advance this even further, and he made a draft for a project which could unite the capabilities of an aircraft and a submarine. And he was going to push through with this. It was basically a seaplane that could dive.
Yeah.
Which is still the same kind of thing. But as I said, they then ended up abandoning this idea. And they do more of it. There's I'm terrible with names. Lavrenti Beria from the NKVD. He ordered the project to resume. That was in the 40s. And in the 47, they actually tested it. 53, though, Nikita Khrushchev closed the project. And his words were that it never got off the ground, which I found hilarious. It's like, he knows that's a joke, right? The UK tried to do it as well in the 20s, but again, great concepts, and they technically worked, but they just never went ahead with it. I guess it's too expensive or something.
I mean, now Elon Musk has conquered space. Why not, by all means, make plane boat. Go on, Elon. Just distract yourself with the...
Didn't he already make some sort of fancy submarine, too, that didn't end up being used for rescuing those guys, but was supposed to be?
Yeah.
So he's already got the submarine life down. He's got the space life down. Now he's just got to put 2 and 2 together.
And he infamously, of course, when they rejected the use of that, he decided to clearly get high and go on Twitter and call them all pedophiles.
Yeah.
Yes, as one does when you're a clearly responsible gajillionaire.
He's like the anti-Batman. He's like the opposite.
He really is. He's the polar opposite.
Every passing day, I just feel like, 'cause I still really do love Grimes as an artist.
Same.
I used to really love her. Like, she always came across in interviews like a really cool person. And now it's like, she's hooked up with Elon Musk, though. Like,
has anyone figured out how to pronounce their child's last name yet? Or first name yet, rather?
Is it X Ash Archangel or something, I believe is the pronunciation. But you know that kid's just going to go by Ash at school. Like it's just.
I think that's what they're assuming. Yeah.
I think if I'm that kid, I'm probably going to go by whatever distance me the most from this family. That's gonna be a tough one on that child.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a bunch of info I'm not going to bother reading because it's too much. The US tried to make one of these submarine things, but that was in the 60s. And then in 2008, the US Defense Advanced Research... Oh, this is a mouthful. The US Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency announced it was preparing to issue contracts for a submersible aircraft. But that was 2008, and there's been no update since then.
Well, someone's got to go tell our president that this is a thing that could happen. Because I don't know if you know this, he's basically a child. And if someone tells him that he can have airplanes that are also submarines, he's gonna make it happen. We already brought back, space military. So
yeah, Space Force. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a not well-received TV show now, but there you go.
Yeah. Shockingly so, because I was like, oh, that seems like that's going to be... Look at the caliber of people behind it. And then soon, day one, it's like, nope, you don't want to go near that. But talking about things, though, a child would do. The thing about that Marine here, it does seem like a very toyetic idea of like...
Oh, it's a toy. I would have bought this toy and played with it in the bath. Yeah.
It does seem like this would be a thing, like, oh, they just came up with this for the movie so they could sell the toy. But it is also in Batman comic canon from way back in 1950. You have Batman 66. The Birth of Batplane 2. Which is kind of
that's around the time they were developing these things. That makes sense.
Well, there you go. And it's kind of appropriate, too, for Batplane 2. It's the second Batwing we're seeing getting destroyed here as well. But, there's an issue, October 1950 by David Verne Reed, wherein Batman and Robin are approached by the military to lend them the Batplane so they can kind of develop their own ideas off it and stuff. And then they keep losing the planes. And the planes keep flying off, and then the three of them get picked up by the same crooks somehow. And then these crooks are going in, like, armed with their own bat planes. So then Batman has to develop a new bat plane, which also turns into a submarine once it crashes and stuff. So
that's important.
There you go. It's a direct...
If I'm Batman, I'm going to stop lending my technology to the military if they're going to keep losing it. Just saying. So at what point do you draw the line? Do you insist on at least inspecting their facility and making sure that their security's up to snuff? I mean, come on.
I mean, that's an old concept of an old way of thinking of Batman. Now, there's like no goddamn way is he letting the military get near any of his stuff.
Yeah, right? No way.
Although talking about swiping things, though, we've talked like a bunch this season. We always bring up that, like, oh, Chris Nolan, for a guy who was all like, yes, my Batman movies are completely removed from the things you've seen in the past, and it's much more serious and much more grounded, and et cetera, et cetera. And we keep bringing up since season one, it's like, he seems to have swiped that from like an old script for the original Batman movie and stuff. And this, I remember last season we were saying, oh, the Batmobile falling apart and turning into the Bat Cucumber, as we called it then. That seemed to be like, oh, that's like, he kind of swipes that for the Dark Knight. I actually think, though, because there's a lot of influence of Batman Forever on the Dark Knight. And that we've mentioned throughout the season, even freaking Christian Bale auditioned for Batman in the Val Kilmer suit and stuff.
You know what I noticed? Somewhere, I can't remember exactly where it was. It might actually be, it might actually be around here. There's a moment where Two-Face's laugh sounds a lot like the Heath Ledger's. I was noticing that there were moments where just his laugh, I was like, I wonder if Heath Ledger pulled anything from that.
You know what? With everything we've uncovered that's connecting the two movies, he probably did. Nobody assumes there's any connection with this and the Nolan films, but there is.
But then again, in The Dark Knight, of course, the tumbler gets blown up by the Joker. And from that wreckage, it turns out Batman had another vehicle hidden inside it the whole goddamn time.
Yeah.
So that seems more like, oh, it wasn't the Bat Cucumber from Returns Chris Nolan got that idea from. It looks like it might have been this scene of like, oh yeah, the thing gets wrecked. Turns out he's got another thing inside it anyway, so
a
big
Batpedo. Actually, I shouldn't say that. That sounds weird.
Yeah. Now who's calling people pedos, John?
God damn it.
Oh, God. I have to say the another time that you can see the air to sea technology used quite effectively with this my plane crashed and turned to a breakaway sub thing. I believe it was done in a Team America World Police. So that movie should be an inspiration to all people. I think.
Again, this also seems very James Bond as well. I could totally imagine.
Very well. James Bond's had he had at least one car sub, right?
Yeah. So. Again, too, Chris Nolan, he's a big James Bond guy, because I remember watching Inception, like that whole ski chase thing. It's just like, Chris Nolan clearly is a guy who just wanted to make a James Bond movie, and then they're just I couldn't get it, so I just made Batman instead.
But yeah, I mean, it's funny, there's a lot of parts of Inception that are just a bunch of James Bond set pieces. Thrown into a sci-fi film.
Well, maybe he could make the next Bond movie. There you go. We need someone new.
I think he's vying for it. I think Chris Nolan is actively pursuing James Bond at this point.
If Bond must continue, I could see someone like Christopher Nolan doing a decent job.
I'd argue that Bond didn't need to continue past 1968 or something. But they're
you're
not
not a fan at all, are you?
No, never got into the Bond movies. We have here for a long time, I'd never even kind of gathered what was going on here, because it's just like, holy, is that what's happening? So Batman is approaching the goons, frog goons, in the Batmarine, and for some reason I always thought he fires out a thing to Dick Grayson, and Dick Grayson grabs onto it. That's like, no, he's firing himself out of the goddamn submarine.
Yeah, he's flying out of it.
Yeah,
which again makes me feel more lends credence to my theory. I think that this is all like he intended to get shot down and do this. Like, you have a perfectly functional submarine, why not swing by and snap him up with that? When you're like, nope, just ditch the sub. One time use, this vehicle served its purpose. Let's time to go. Next part of the mission.
Yeah, it's like a rocket, into space. They jettison all of the crap they don't need anymore. You just use those things once, and there you go.
It's like almost like these goons themselves. It's just like, those are one-use goons. Like, just to get taken out, you never see them again.
You want 3-use goons? You got to pay extra.
I mean, considering how disposable Two-Face treats his own goons, one-time use sounds about right.
To be fair, they're not exactly making a case for keeping them around, because Batman catches them in a net.
All of them all at once.
In one go.
Also, when your nickname for your boss is Face, you gotta contemplate your existence there.
Oh, and how do these nets work? Like, are they weighted at the ends? Because
they have to be.
Yeah, I don't think I would get stuck in one if they weren't. Yeah.
Because I guess I would assume when you it's weighted so that the weights are meant to tangle around each other when once you've thrown it around, thereby ensnaring your unsuspecting prey.
That's the thing, because you were saying though, Jessi, like, oh, this is a testament to Batman not killing in this movie, which is a whole thing. Like, we talked about the whole way through. There's like a deleted subplot about Batman's guilt of killing and whatnot as well. But I would actually argue though that, like, because these guys are all in this little tight net, and then he attaches them to a buoy, and then there's a lot of these guys are like stuck at the bottom of the net. It's like they're just left there for God knows how long. It could be like the next day Batman's like, oh crap, I forgot to tell them. Like, those guys they're probably long dead by now. Like, it might be maybe one of them still like got his head above water or whatever. But
I mean, if you can work together as a team, if you get real clever overnight, or you figure out teamwork because the situation arises, you figure out how to take turns surfacing briefly.
Yeah. That's the only explanation I'm going to accept.
I mean, I don't see that with Two-Face's goons though. They don't strike me as the sharpest tools in the shed.
I don't necessarily see that either, but we'll go with he gave them a shot. That's a little more like he gave them a chance he gave them the opportunity to be alive, and if they die, it's not because he killed them, it's because they're morons.
It's now because saying like, oh, he gave them a shot. It just reminds me of Wrath of Khan. When Khan's kind of confronting Chekhov, he's like, oh, Set the Alpha 5 had a chance. It could have had this is Set the Alpha 5. And then find out, like, one of the other sequels is going to be one of these frogmen has come back. I was like, all his friends were dead. And Batman's like, yeah, I gave you a shot, didn't I? Like, you could have survived it. It's like, well, we didn't, did we? Only I survived. We're just at Bowie for 6 days, Batman, for Christ's sake.
Oh, what a great spin-off. That would, oh my god, I kind of want to write that now. What a great story that would be, this crazy revenge tale of the frogman who lived. That's what it should be called, the frogman who lived.
Yeah. I want a book of all side stories, like for these little characters. A bit like they have for Star Wars, that
Yeah.
from a different point of view, but I want it from the Batman side characters.
But yeah, talking about fun, it's like we're now approaching Claw Island. As the thing is, too, it's such a huge island and stuff. Like, I'm wondering, is it just them and the goons hanging out there? Or it seems like it could be like, this could be a city or something. It looks like there could be families living.
There's a goon community.
Yeah, the goons have wives and children, and hopefully really good health insurance policies.
They'll need it.
It could turn out after the downfall of Edward Nigma Tech gets shut down as a company, all the goons are like, living in Claw Island was the best time of my life, man. You had friggin' free benefits, you had free housing and stuff. Everything there was really nice and swish too. The guy had money to burn. Like, I know he turned out to be a supervillain, but can you keep the company going at least? I mean, like, you can tamper with the box and make it less dangerous, but like, come on, we had a great thing going living out in that crazy island.
Because imagine, I like to think that that's how Two-Face keeps getting all these goons over and over again, is just good benefits packages. So imagine that now they have an island. Now all of a sudden, not only do you get benefits and life insurance and all that, but you actually get a place to stay. I mean, yeah, this was the time of their life.
No rent or anything
of the goons.
I think I was talking to someone actually on the listeners page during the week about, like, I wonder if the Riddler actually hooked up with Two-Face not because he has, like, gang clout and he's a supervillain and stuff, but because he also knows, like, Harvey Dent's like a lawyer, so he can help me get through all the legal red tape of the box and stuff.
Maybe that was the entire inspiration after all. It's just like, I like your... I was flipping through the phone book, and you know what? You made my decision for me with your amazing performance at the circus. So.
But just the, like, it could be going through, like, when people showed up at that Nigmatech party, Two-Face had to write up a whole terms and conditions that people had to tick. They had to literally tick a box to be like, well, by buying the box, therefore you are now giving up the rights to your intellectual property because that's going to be swiped. But it's all in small print that nobody bothers to read. So it's like, yeah, he's full on Mark Zuckerberg to these people. It's like, you signed on when you bought the box to allow me to do whatever the hell I want with now that it's in your house and stuff. It's like, yeah, maybe that's what Two-Face is there for. He's like, well, let me tell you, my boy, you'd have to go to the case of, finders versus keepers from 1970 and stuff.
I do like that. I like that idea. It makes, hey, look, it never hurts to have that kind of legal clout on your side.
Yeah.
He's good for multiple. He's got two personalities, and both of them are useful. Why take one when you can have two?
Well, this movie is supposed to have two personalities, but we rarely see the other one, unfortunately.
It's pretty much all the crazy, yeah. Which it's fun in a way, and that's one of the things. We go back to what we were talking about on Monday with Tommy Lee Jones's judgment of all things silly, and yet maybe it is that judgment that brings such groundedness to a psycho character. Like he's so earnest in his delivery as nutso as it is. I don't think he can be any other way. That's just everything he does and says he does with the utmost sincerity in the moment, in spite of how he feels about it. And that's what makes this villain for me so fun.
But now though we get this little bit is going to lead me on to a whole other thing, but we get the Riddler saying, and now the real game begins, and rubbing his hands. And I'm very curious about this line now, because that was ostensibly the tagline of the whole movie. Like, I think a lot of the posters and stuff had the real game begins and stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of wondering now, because it's not in any of the scripts. I'm wondering if it was like a decision late in the day where either Jim Carrey improvised that and they're like, oh, we'll use that in marketing because that's a good line. Or they knew that was going to be the tagline and they're like, Jim, quickly say this and we'll put it in all the TV spots and all the trailers and we'll plaster it everywhere. And he's like, all right, because I think if Jim Carrey improv'd it, you'd have to pay him for that, wouldn't you? Because that's his...
Well, isn't that implied in he wouldn't be classed as a writer for saying one line, would he?
So maybe that's how they got around it. They're like, oh yeah, but you said it on our set in our movie, so it's our property, Jim.
Yeah, a bit like if you make a product while you're at work at another job, they technically own the product because you made it in their time.
We were saying earlier in the movie, Edward Nygma in the box, technically, that's Wayne Tech property, that device, but...
That's the only reason he's annoyed.
That's right. He's like, come on, you technically, I own this, shut up. This is even a moment that it's like, they might have just shot, because sometimes they'll shoot trailer, like, promo material, with that is never intended to be in the movie. So it could even be a situation where they shot it intended as a promo for the film and never intended to have it in the movie and thought, let's plug it in later on. So that's a third option that I want to all that extra mental gymnastics just to get to a potential third option to throw in your
I think they mentioned that in Star Wars Minute, where they're saying that it took hours to film that one shot that's in the Rogue One trailers of Jyn Erso standing in like the pilot uniform in that corridor and kind of slowly turn around in a very dramatic pose. And it's a thing, like I do remember, like, yeah, that was all over the place. And they're saying that Gareth Edwards, he spent ages, like literally hours of people's time shooting that over and over again, knowing it wasn't going to be in the movie. But he was like, we're going to use it in the promos, though, because it's a cool shot. But I can't, it serves no purpose in the film, but we're going to get that shot because it looks great.
Well, they do that, because that's sometimes they know, like you got a really strong vision for your trailer. Funny, I've had trailers in my mind for, things that I haven't even started writing yet. Sometimes you just know how you want to pitch it, you know how you want to package it.
Yes, sometimes that's the most important part.
That's very, very true.
But in talking about cool marketing, I specifically remember the line, "The real game begins," because it was used to promote the Batman Forever video game. And I think both of them, because there was two, both not held in any kind of regard, but in front of the VHS of Batman Forever, you used to have a pretty awesome advert for the Acclaim game, which was it was an awful video game. I played it once when I was a kid, hated it. But I think
that was the downfall of Acclaim. They made loads of really bad like movie tie-ins and things.
It's weird too, because it's using the Mortal Kombat 2 engine, so it kind of has that thing of like, I don't know how they were doing it in Mortal Kombat, whereas it looks like they photographed people and then they animated that somehow. Yeah,
they're basically they film actors doing the moves in Mortal Kombat and then sort of animate that into the game. It's a very strange effect. It's very off the time.
Well, that was in that game, and then that game I looked up because I thought like, maybe it was just me that thought it was bad, but no, when it came out, apparently Electronic Gaming Monthly awarded it 1.25 out of 10.
Well, so. Why 1.25?
That's very specific. It was an average of multiple scores, maybe.
It's got to be right, because you just go 1 or 1.5 or 2. Keep it low.
But the advert, though, that was used for that game, I'll pop it up in the listener's cave when this comes out, was great. It was like, it was quite intense. It was very kind of dark and moody in comparison to what Batman Forever ultimately turned out to be. But yeah, it's like, it starts with, it's like a guy running throughout the streets and it's very frenetically edited. And he's like looking around and sees like very 90s looking woman in kind of weird lime green attire and stuff, so staring him down. Looks very Dark City, that kind of thing. And then you look over and see like two twins, very kind of shining kind of thing. Like two twins stand together and then their heads start to spin and then they turn into the outlines of Batman and Robin. And then it's doing all this stuff of like, 80 levels, 125 attacks, which looking at the reviews, people are saying it does not have 80 levels. It does not have 125 attacks. That's all lies. But and then the thing is that because it has this really hard kind of rock song going throughout it. Tried looking it up to see is this part of a bigger song. Looks like it was just written for the advert. Don't know who by. But it's all this like, you can run, there's no escape. You can hide, that's his fate. And then at the end it has like, when good battles evil, the real game begins. And it's the final shot is awesome because it's like It's this guy. It turns out it looks like he's about 50 odd years old. He's a really kind of middle-aged guy looking like he's in a prison nightie. Like it's got the stripes and a little cap. But it kind of looks like Ebenezer Scrooge, so that's quite strange. And he looks up and sees, this big skyscraper above him. The grotesque that's atop that skyscraper, there's like a flash of lightning or whatever. It turns into Batman. And from out behind him comes Robin. And there's a shot of Batman jumping off the building, like full on, like, and starts spreading out the cape and coming towards the camera. Looks really well, like they would have put a lot of money into it and stuff. And then he morphs into the Bat logo, and like it just has the Forever comes up, and they're like, "Holy crap, that's amazing!"
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. Like I was fairly certain, like that must have been the original ending. Like it's such a cool shot. It's like I wouldn't be surprised if it turned out like I know they did have a different ending than them running towards the camera and stuff, but it wasn't that. But I wouldn't be surprised if like they tested a few ones and they're like, yeah, him jumping off the building and then morphing into the logo. That was going to be how the film ended. But yeah, like I'll post that in the page. But it's pretty damn cool. Much like all the marketing of Batman Forever, it was always like the marketing was insanely good.
Oh, dude! I mean, the songs that that's the iconic songs, and really, I mean, it was "Kiss from a Rose" was just the end credit song, not even the end, not even the first song in the credits.
Yeah.
And yet that song is so inextricably tied to Batman Forever.
Yeah.
That's you can't have one without the other. It's just we didn't end up getting around to it because it's too warm here yesterday, but I have this tea. It's a rose flavored tea called Kiss from a Rose. We were like, we should drink that while we watch Batman Forever.
Oh my god, that would have been great.
Now, all right. That was an intro. I still use it sometimes. It's one of my intros for my comedy routines when I get up to do stand-up. I'll start out with there's two kinds of people in this world. Those who know the song Kiss from a Rose from Batman Forever, and those who know it from anywhere else.
But the thing is, at this point, now we get to the reason Jessi wanted to come on this season.
Yes!
Finally! And we only get half of it on this minute.
Yeah, you get to spread out the joy. You get to make it last.
I'm torn, right? Because I remember this. This is one of the first things I think of with this movie.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's so dumb.
It's so good. Oh, this to me is a moment. Everyone always looks at it as like, that was so stupid. And I look at Holy Rusted Metal Batman as such an shining example of why this movie is great and is the perfect Batman movie and just does it all completely right. And it's this just brazen, absurd shout out to the comics here that just solidifies this movie for me. And that moment alone is priceless just as it is, just with that, just Robin exclaiming "Holy Rusted Metal." It's Batman's reactions that make it everything.
Yeah, he looks as confused and disgusted by this stupid line as we are.
Because his response,
like, what are you talking about?
It's just, huh?
Yeah,
like
it's up there with Darth Vader's "What?" from A New Hope.
What? Oh god, it's just so organic and beautiful. And again, that's what Val Kilmer brings to this role. That's amazing. I mean, I don't know what's written in the script, probably just but just what he brings to that moment is everything. And I think, again, that's why I love it so much, and that's why I can appreciate it, is because Batman's judgment is not left out of this. Like, it's in universe. It is canon. The judgment on this absurd line is canon, and yet it is there. And like this, I talked earlier, I think on Monday maybe, about, people buying into the world and taking it seriously, and that's why we're allowed to buy into it, and what makes it fun. And this is the one moment where they let themselves kind of step back and make fun of themselves a little bit. And I think for me, that's the cherry on top. It's find that one way in, where that one split second where we can wink and nod at the audience.
Yeah, I like the way they make fun of that, because obviously that's what people think of with Robin, is these lines he comes out with. But how do you update it for the 90s Still have him say it, just have Batman react to it differently. Like, what the hell are you talking about?
I think it's just because it's so abrupt, and it's such an instant throwback. Like, not so much the comics. It's very specifically Burt Ward's Robin would do the holy Godiva, Batman, all that kind of stuff. And it's like they did bring it up in we're talking about like Val Kilmer's Batman. It's like, got a reaction to it. It was later on in comics they did have a nod to it at one point, where apparently in Detective Comics 569 from December 1986, there's an issue where the Joker announces that he's going to steal Joe Miller's joke book, which apparently is a rare first edition from the Gothic Public Library. And apparently it's a really famous, apparently it's a real joke book. I didn't realize this.
Oh, it's real. Oh.
Yeah, got the front cover is actually something. It's Joe Miller's Jests, or The Wits Vaticum, a collection of the most brilliant jests, the politest repartees, the most elegant bon mots, and the most pleasant short stories in the English language. So it sounds very, very posh and whatnot. But yeah, so the Joker sent them a clue that he's like, yes, I'm going to go steal this joke book. And at this point, this is the beginning of Jason Todd's career as Robin, and he says, I didn't get this at all. He says, Holy Gutenberg! And it's like, I don't know what the hell that's got to do. Is he talking about this as a joke book? Steve Gutenberg is a comedian in the 80s? Is that what he's referencing? I'm trying to look into it. Did not get it at all. But as he does that, there's a panel of Batman going, Robin, stop. Don't ever do that again. And Robin's just like, okay. But I don't know what the hell it's about, but it's very, very, like, the comic book himself knows that it's odd and abrupt, but they keep it in there anyway.
I think that's fun. I think it works the best here, though. I mean, just this, what a choice of, and that's the choice of the thing, too. That's what makes it so special for me. Of all the things to pick, of all the random exclamations one could make, holy rusted metal.
Yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes Robin in the old show would come out with ones that at least made sense, but this is just so stupid. It's great.
So bonkers.
You wouldn't say that.
Oh, and I'm not gonna get ahead of myself this time, because I'm gonna save the joy of listening to his explanation for the next episode, because
that's my favorite bit.
If I wasn't sold on this already, I'm just the delivery, the yuppie, adorable Chris O'Donnell delivery, and the deadpan Val Kilmer reaction, then what comes next would definitely have me hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, I think people are a bit harsh on Val, because a lot of people say, oh, he's too deadpan in it. But I think he should be. He's Batman.
I agree. He is. He's supposed to be serious, and in a way, he almost serves as the straight man in this wacky world. I've talked a lot. That's sort of my motif here: is the believability, the way that they buy into this world that allows us to buy into it. Is his straight man, his total stoic participation in the absurd events that transpire around him, give us a way in, give us our ground and keep our feet on the ground during this wacky adventure.
That was the other thing, though, with the explanation of like holy whatever, because it's so associated with like 1960s silly Batman. I started thinking like, it's like holy smokes and all that sort of stuff. Does that come from the exclaiming holy whatever come before Batman, or was it inspired by that? And did a little research. I found out that not only it came way before the Batman TV show, but it's also apparently an Irish thing. So there's a little bit of national pride for me there. I looked into apparently a quote from Daniel Cassidy's book, How the Irish Invented Slang. He says, we don't normally exclaim gee whiz or gee willikers anymore. We associate such talk with a classic time in New York when Irish Gaelic was the secret language of the slums. Holy cow actually comes from holy cathu, which stands, in Gaelic, it means holy grief. And apparently, it came from like Irish immigration in the famine over to the US, and then it began becoming popularized when it was used in like baseball announcements and stuff, where people will go, holy cow, and stuff like that. So apparently that's where exclaiming holy whatever in front of something, that's where that comes from. So now you know.
That was highly informative.
Yeah. So next time you say "holy cow," you remember you're specifically talking about an Irish cow.
I'll remember, and I will try to figure out how one moos with an Irish accent.
There you go.
True story. I was in a wonderful little place called Lone Pine, which is about 3 hours north of LA, notable as the set for many, many, many of the old westerns, as well as a bunch of movies were filmed out there, including Tremors was another big one. But it's also the place where you go to get to Mount Whitney, which is the tallest mountain in our connected 48 states. And I was out there to hike last year. We did get to see the movie museum. It was very exciting. And I've just completely lost my train of thought and the entire reason why I brought up Lone Pine in the first place. That's awesome. That's so awesome. Oh God, let me retrace my steps. Clearly it's too early for me. It being, midday here. Garbage. What were we just on? Holy this and oh yes, of course. It's very important. So I'm there with a friend and we're in this nice little valley. We come upon these cows. And my friend is excited. She's grown up in LA her whole life. She's never seen a field of cows before. So she's coming to the fence and she wants to communicate with the cows and she moos at them. And as soon as she starts mooing, the cows just give her this look. And every single one of them turns around and walks away.
Oh, maybe she offended them.
To this day, we still have no idea what she said to them to offend them so. But, suffice to say that cows and my friend are not the best combination.
And they've told all their friends.
Have you revealed on your channel yet? I know you were holding on to the reason why the cow is your avatar.
I did, yes. I did. I think when we hit 15,000 subscribers last year, I put that out. And yes, I did discuss my vendetta with this cow in New Zealand. So if you want, should I tell the story now or should I save it for my third episode?
That could be a good tease.
I can be a tease.
Yeah, because the people are like, because now we're on the precipice here of like we're halfway through this joke. So shall we mosey on to the next episode?
I'm ready. I'm excited for
Let's do it. Let's get to my favorite bit of this week. We will depart and head off into the dark, dark night. So come and speak to us on all the usual social media nonsense. And go buy some merch on TeePublic. That's lovely. Oh, review us on iTunes as well. I always forget to mention that one. And check out our website, thebatminute.com. And we'll see you again on Friday for more Batminute Forever.
Next time, raise the reef! Wayne and his ward must rely upon their wits as the rust and rocks rumble with a sudden seismic shift. But with the dynamic duo divided on this perilous peninsula, what troubles will they tackle as they traverse the geography of the monarch of mystery's mostly metal monstrosity? Find out Friday, same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.
Ba-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.